In this video, I'd like to cover a tool that I've created, and I'll release it a little bit different from this series of tools. But if you use Salesforce and you use Visual Studio Code along with the Salesforce CLI command line interface, you know that you can download from a Salesforce org the XML representation for custom objects or even the standard objects. So I've created a tool here that allows us to process the XML files that are pulled down with Visual Studio Code. Now, what does process mean? Well, essentially, it will loop through all the files, because one thing that you'll come to find out is when you pull down that custom object or regular object, it doesn't matter, each field becomes an XML file. Well, that has its own issues in terms of working with them and trying to process them or review them. So what I've done here is with this simple tool, and this is all HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's all it is. I have the ability to process the file. Now, another thing that I've added to the processing, besides just extracting all the fields and determining the types and if there's descriptions there, as well as the label if it's required, and then you give it the object name from that text box, is if it finds a lookup field, well, it's going to try to actually determine some cardinality. Now, it doesn't know the cardinality. It's up to the human to help it. So this is just, again, plain JavaScript that's doing this. But in this case, this object, this generate document object, is actually a one-to-many. There's one account and many generate documents. So if I do one-to-many here, that's going to look the wrong way. So I actually created a button for many to one. So that's going to happen here. You also have one-to-one or many-to-many. So we're going to do many-to-one here for this one. The same thing for contacts. There's one contact, many generate document records. So because it's left to right in this display, we're just going to do that, we're going to do that, and we're going to do that. Now, what just happened? Well, the files were all picked up, all 83, and they were processed. So the XML was actually parsed and values were returned. One of the other things, though, that I've incorporated here is the awesome Mermaid.js library. Now that pop-up that did the cardinality, that is another awesome JavaScript library called Sweet Alert. There's two versions of that. I'm using the original version of it. So Sweet Alert, and this is Mermaid.js. So what we see here is I've converted the tabular data into a ERD entity relationship diagram using Mermaid.js. And we can see the relationships. This is what that whole pop-up was about for the cardinality. So there's one account and many, one contact many times, and so on and so forth, opportunities, etc. It doesn't matter what object you pick. It can be a custom object or it can be a standard object coming from Salesforce. It does its best. The code does its best. There's no AI here yet. That'll be the next phase for this. But for now, yes, you get a visual. What else do you get? Well, you can zoom in and you can drag it and you can move it around. So this is giving you the ability to have a visual representation of an ERD in terms of what the relationships could be, again, determined by the human at this point, So you have to have a little bit of knowledge of the object you're working with. All right, let's go and let's put another object in here. And let's see if we can beef up, so to speak, our ERD. Make it a little more robust. So we're going to now go and get into our account object. And we're going to process the fields from the account object. So here we are, the account fields. I'm going to select them all. And I'm going to click process. So right there, 41 files were processed. This is all locally running, by the way. Now, there is a CDN that is used for the Suite Alert library. There is a CDN, which is Content Delivery Network. It reaches out to the internet to pull in those JavaScript libraries to allow these great things to happen. This is datatables.net, another great JavaScript library. And you can copy, you can export to CSV, you can filter, you can search. There's ability to display different numbers of rows, and there's even more robust features to that awesome JavaScript library. But we got our account information. Now let's take a look here and see what happened to our ERD. Well, we can see now the fields were actually populated for the account. All right. And again, you can zoom in and you can drag and pan it with another awesome open source JavaScript library. Pan Zoom is the name of that one. Because Mermaid.js renders this out as SVG, scalable vector graphics, you have the ability then to manipulate it and not lose fidelity of the visual, which is really, really cool. So yeah, those libraries are being pulled in through a CDN. If you were to do this exclusively offline, you're not going to have this functionality. It would still rip through the files and render out an HTML table, but you wouldn't have this. But there is no phone home code. There's nothing that's sending data anywhere. Everything is staying local. Let's do one more, and then I think this probably proves what this does at this time. So we're going to do opportunity here. And we'll select those files. So we're going to select the opportunity fields. And now we have 24 of those. We're going to process them. Of importance to note, you want to name the object based on what the lookup name is. So if you wanted to not have the lookup find it, then you would change the name of it and it would put it off to the side. For an object that isn't related, then that will run and it'll go off to the side. So here we have the opportunity, we have the account, we have the two other lookups that are available or attached, if you will, to the generate document object. And you now have the ability to kind of visualize with zooming and panning for purposes of learning more about your Salesforce objects. And again, this will work with any standard object or custom object and give you a visual representation. The tables give you the opportunity to export or search, filter, etc., paginate. So that's another possible use of the data. Could be very helpful for technical design documents, as well as someone just starting out in a Salesforce org that kind of needs to figure out what's going on in there a little bit. It might prove to be helpful. Thanks.